So guys, I've realized it is like Tuesday and the autocross season starts this Sunday. I'm a horrible procrastinator. I thought it was like not this Sunday but next Sunday. But anyways, this has to get back together. I plan on racing this Sunday. So I'll for sure be finishing welding the trailer back together. I don't know if I'll even record much of that. It is what it is. But I'm going ahead and jump to a clip of I've already recorded myself talking about this whole walk around and what's going on with this car, and so we'll just cut to that now. Autocross actually starts back in literally 2 weeks, and this car right here is like obviously not in the greatest condition. All I was really doing was raising the back. I want to pick the back of the car up like 1.5 inches. It's got a lot of understeer, and it's also sits real low in the back. I mean, I haven't really made any adjustments to it except for once when I first put the coils on, and I just think it needs more rake forward to have more front grip, and it wouldn't help to pick the back up off the ground some. I mean, it was like tucking the tires all the way in the back, and I'm not really about that hot boy shit. Let's see, I've got a plate I've got to weld in here. This thing, I used to have like a competition sound system in it, and it beat the latch completely out of it. And now I have this plate that actually fits right here, but I need it tacked in very nicely right there. I had a plate in there before that was pop riveted in, and it finally gave, but I just need this tacked on. But at least I've got the machine here now. I'm just gonna get someone to come down here and help me with it. I've actually had the trunk like ratchet strapped closed for the last like 3 autocross seasons, and I have not gotten in trouble for it yet. I think only once ever at Tech-In have they even realized that my trunk was ratchet strapped closed. Probably shouldn't even be saying this because I'm kind of like ratting myself out. But yeah, I've had a ratchet strap holding my trunk down. Other than that, I mean, nothing has broke on this car like in like 4 years. Like ever since I built it, I haven't really, like, surprisingly, and I'm running sticky tires now, so like I've got actual, not sticky, 200 tread wear, like actual racing tires now. So I might start popping axles and stuff, but like I've never had this thing really tear up. Hasn't torn through the clutch that I've originally put in it when I did this swap. Hasn't blown any gears out. Hadn't torn the center support shaft or the center support bearing out of the drive shaft. Hadn't popped any axles. The original rubber suspension was torn to shit, but it's all polyurethane now, and ever since that, I mean, I have no issues there at all. I should probably, I know like people like to copper lube all their polyurethane and stuff. There's a lot of parts I should probably take apart and copper lube and put back together, like the trailing arms. People like to pull them off, copper lube the polyurethane mounts, or urethane mounts, or Delrin mounts, or actually I think one of them, Delrin, I think is self-lubricating or some shit. One of them's considered self-lubricating. But anyways, mine are all Powerflex, and they recommend to copper lubricate them often, and I have fucking never done that. Never at all. But yeah, the only reason this car is even taken apart right now is just to raise the back 1.5 inches. And yeah, so here we are, and now I plan on actually doing all that stuff. I'm going to, the latch is done, that already happened. So the only other thing I really need to worry about is securing my battery a little better. I really need to order a battery box. I'd like a metal mounted one. They make plastic ones. They're like freaking $15 to $25 at the parts store, so it's not a big deal. I can just run to the parts store and get a battery box from the parts store that my battery will fit in, and screw it in place, and that will be fine. I would get away with that, no problem. And the latch will close and strap down now. So yeah, main thing I gotta do is undo my shocks, and I'm just gonna raise the back end a little bit. Just going for like an inch to an inch and a half. It's a little bit higher. I've already explained that. So I also bought these. It doesn't really it's not exactly purely cosmetic. It is purely for me. These go into the car. I knew I was going to be raising the ass end, so I'm going to put them in while I'm raising the ass end. They go right here. They actually hook on to the bolt that holds your shock on and mount just about like that. And it allows you to strap your car down to the trailer way easier. I usually have to strap all the way back to my subframe, and my subframe is way back here, which after I raise the car is going to be a little better, but I've been having to like jam my freaking face and head under this car to try to strap it to the actual center of the subframe. But yeah, with these mounts, yeah, they're pretty awesome. There's a couple of companies that make them, and I just found them and realized that would be super awesome if I could strap the back of the car from that much further back and off to the sides. It's going to make loading the car on the trailer a lot more easy. Yeah, for sure. If you've got any kind of E30 or TI, they might work on the E36s and some other BMWs as well. But I just thought they're a really cool little part. I think they're like $20. You can get them already powder coated red, but they're cool. They're strictly for strapping the car down to a trailer. Makes it a lot easier to do that. But so I'm gonna add those on since I have to pull the shocks off. Alright, so I got one of these perches off. All I've got to do is raise my rear spring perches and try to raise them an even amount to pick the back of the car out. It's very simple. Anybody that has coilovers knows this. It's not actually coilovers, it's a shock and a spring on a perch in the back of this car, but what the fuck ever, same difference. This is the spring perch, and the bottom collar, the lock collar, is actually on fucking completely upside down, so I'll have to take these all the way off and spin that one, turn it over. It's supposed to be facing the other way. Obviously that flat side should be against the bottom of that. There's no reason that those should be facing against each other the way they are. It was assembled wrong from the guy I got it from. I never set the height on the rear at all when I ordered this. It's a caliper gauge. Basically all I'm going to do is measure this distance in here and then take that and raise it. Obviously I'm just going to open up this space to a certain amount and try to match that same amount on the other side and see how much it picks the car up. So I'll do that now, and I'll probably won't even video the other side, and we'll just drop the car and see what it looks like. It took penetrating lube and clamping this into the vise just to get these to unlock. Of course, the first thing I did was try to bust the bottom off the top to try to unlock the two, but yeah, it was actually not really easy to get these apart, and if you don't have a vise and something nice to put against it, it'd be really hard to do that without fucking shit up. If I was in somebody's driveway and just pissed off, I'd probably just pull out a pair of fucking pipe wrenches and leave the nasty, gnarly marks everyone ends up putting all in these with either pipe wrenches or just literally beating flat heads with a hammer. But yeah, I'm going to adjust that up. I'm literally probably going to end up leaving that one like right there. But I've got to take it out, turn that collar upside down and put it up against it, measure this distance, put it back in, do the same thing on the other side, then drop the car. And yeah, I'm going to do all that right now. So here's the second spring perch. I have now set it to try to match the first one. I'll show little picture clips of what I started and ended with on the spring perches, but basically all I'm doing is using my dowel caliper to try to match it. And let's see what we got here. We're at That is amazing. That is the exact number, 49.65 millimeters, which literally just having the battery on one side of the trunk and not the other is gonna throw the car off more than that little bitty amount. So theoretically these don't need to be exactly the same. They need to be a little bit different if you're actually doing a four corner adjustment, but this isn't a Porsche. It's a fucking stupid car I'm gonna race in the parking lot. So this is the best we get. Alright, now all I've got to do is copy what I just did on the other side. And it'll be up in the air a little more. Where'd my flashlight go? Yeah, I just put a hell of a lot of tension on that spring. It's probably going to act different too. I've got adjustment on the shock so I can actually let it sag lower if I wanted, but it looks like I have plenty of shock travel. And I'm no suspension expert, so I'm not going to mess with the shocks. I am going to measure and make sure the shocks have the same amount sticking out. They actually adjust in and out of their base. I'm going to make sure that there is the same amount of travel available on both shocks, make sure they are the same. And then I'm going to set the other side to be exactly like this. And then I really need to actually drive the crap out of the car around the block a few times and let it set, and then measure and see how it goes. This is what I was talking about earlier. These are, they're so awesome. These are so nice to have when you go to tying the car down. To have tie downs right there. Because literally I was strapping the car all the way back there behind the subframe, which was very hard to get to, and now I can easily reach it and just hook straps onto it directly from the rear trailing arms. And it's not a new product, so it's been tried and true since like E30 days. So all you people that are gonna say it's gonna rip my shocks off or something stupid, I thought the same thing at first, but people have been doing it for years. This is sitting a lot higher off the ground than it was. I like it a lot. It's hard to tell. The back still looks dumped, and then I mean it's still gonna settle some. I haven't driven it at all, but that just goes to show how dumped it was. I raised it 15 millimeters, and yeah, it's still almost stuck in tire. I wanted it to look exactly like that. Would have been nice, but the way this car is set up, it's got bigger wells in the back. It tucks the tire more in the back, which doesn't matter if the back tires don't turn. So you don't have the problem of like turning the wheel and then hitting a bump and ripping your fender off, which I did once a long time ago. But I believe I've done just about everything I need to do to this car. Everything that I have to do. I still gotta do something about a battery box. I am most likely just going to buy a battery box from the parts store, just because ordering one takes too long. I would really like a nice pretty black one that was, you know, black powder coated plate with just a cover and where the whole battery shows, but I'll probably end up with like an actual plastic box just because they sell them really cheap. They also sell those little kits cheap, but the ones at the parts store look like junk. I don't know. I'm going to do something about getting the battery tied down better for sure. I'm definitely going to strap the battery. I'll fix the trunk. I need to strap the battery. I raise the back up. The car's going to handle so much different now. I've never driven it. I've driven one event on 200 treadwear tires. So I've only ever driven this car in autocross once on actual sticky tires. I'm used to just running 300 to 400 treadwear tires, when this is a 240 horsepower at the most. It's probably got like 200 horsepower at the wheels car, so you can power over 300-400 treadwears no problem, and basically drift. You skid, you point back to where you want to go and punch the fucking gas to the floor, and you go back to where you wanted to go. And I used to just stay real squirrely and could stay between the cones doing that. And I realized real quickly, this car does not have the power to overpower the amount of grip these tires have. When this thing starts to go, they grip up, and they grip up and get hotter and hotter, and they basically want to eject and send you in the direction that you were going to head. You can't just counter steer the other way and carry it out. I mean, I can't. You, maybe someone better than me can. Maybe if I had 500 or 600 horsepower, I still could overpower them, but just now I've got enough tire for this car. Like, for sure, you can feel the difference. Like, it's got enough tire to pop axles and tear the clutch up. They're good enough for the amount of power I have, for sure. There's one thing I didn't do to this car that I really should have done. I'm still going to try to get it done. My ABS does not work because I have removed there used to be a second throttle. It looked like a throttle body, and that was your part of your traction control. It would literally bog out the throttle. There was a second butterfly valve that would bog out the throttle. Removed that completely. It's not there anymore. Well, when you remove that, for some reason, it turns off the ABS. If you remove the traction control system and don't wire in what I've got to do, I've got to order a resistor, and there's a pair of wires somewhere. I've probably tucked them in here, hit them, but the wires that used to go to that flapper, I've got to wire in a 10 ohm resistor. I can be down to 1 amp, but like a 10 ohm 5 amp resistor would be good, or 10 ohm 10 amp resistor. But I've just got to wire a resistor in so that it tricks it into thinking that butterfly valve is still there. Now the traction control system still won't work. It'll still know the traction control is gone. It won't try to use it, but it has to think that valve's there or the ABS doesn't work, which is wild. That's so wild to me that if you pulled your traction control off, BMW would say, oh yeah, you don't want traction control? Well, fuck you, you don't get ABS either. So, and that's scary as hell. I do a lot of heavy braking, and I've almost slid the car into a curb at autocross a couple times. I know I definitely scare the whatever safety guy out there, safety steward, and anybody else working the track anytime I run, because you can tell anytime that I have to hit the brakes heavily, they're most likely just gonna lock because I have to be just real gentle with them. And yeah, so there is no ABS in this car, and there hasn't been for a while. I let a buddy drive it with me at an autocross event last season, and he didn't know there wasn't ABS, and he just laid in the brakes hard coming through the finish and like took the whole line of cones out. Through the finish, they'll put like 10 cones down both sides of the finish, so you've got a good straight, shot through the finish. And he locked the brakes up coming through the finish and just tore down one whole line of cones. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? And he just didn't know you have to pump the brakes to get off of them and get back in them. I mean, it drives like a freaking 50s car. It has no ABS. But that's one thing I really do need to get fixed soon. I will work on that. I'm not trying to make this car fast as shit. I need to get more seat time. I mean, I need to learn how to drive it. I'm not full of myself. I don't think I can drive this car better than I can, but I would love to learn to drive it better than I can. And I know it's a lot more capable than I am already. But yeah, ABS is all I really need, and a battery box. And I got to get the ABS back in it. I got to get the battery strapped down better. I think that's all that it has to have. I'm going to do an oil change. Who doesn't do an oil change every season? And then this car will be prepped and ready. Yeah, anyways, I think I'm going to end it there today, guys. I didn't really get to finishing welding the car hauler back together, but I got the work on the car done. That's good enough for me. I've still got a few more days. I can run the car hauler the way it is. We welded the one side in good enough, and I put the tire back on it. If I've got to, it'll work. But I do really want to weld the fuck out of it and get it back right and get the fenders back painted, and that just be something I never have to worry about again, because that was a nightmare. But I will try to get that taken care of later on in the week. I was more worried about the car. I'm always procrastinating. I'm the guy that's changing his oil at 4 a.m. before the autocross event, while looking over the car, hoping, I haven't warmed it up, I haven't drove it around, just hoping it's going to work. Now that the car is not street legal, I don't get enough testing with it, I guess. Every season the starter's a little sticky because it hasn't ran in 6 months. I mean, just stupid shit like that. When they go from being a daily to being a race car, you definitely have to start realizing that the setup things, the setup maintenance. You can't really let the car set up. I got to come in here and crank it all the time, keep the battery on a tender. stuff like that you normally just don't worry about because you're driving the fucking car all the time. But when you're not driving it all the time, you actually have to take care of it, or it will sit here and dry rot.
I bet you won't hit a motherfucker, hit a motherfucker, hit a motherfucker, hit a motherfucker. I bet you won't push a motherfucker, push a motherfucker, push a motherfucker, push a motherfucker. I bet.
Alright guys, so we are headed home. I'm beat. We got a good bit done today. I got the car pretty much prepped. I still got to work on the trailer a little more, but like I said, it's not that important, so I mean, whatever. I'm just glad to not be procrastinating so hard. I'm going to feel so much better just knowing that the car's fine with just an oil change. It doesn't really need anything else. This is what I deal with. This is what I deal with 24/7.